Small business is the heart and soul of our community, and to keep the economic pulse beating strong, Community Futures is here to help you grow by taking care of business. The Taking Care of Business program brings funding to one-on-one support to eligible businesses in northern BC. Members will have access to free online webinars, professional business advice, flexible business financing, and the opportunity to apply for a reimbursement of up to $7,500 for customized training that's planned by you. Learn more at takingcareofbusiness.biz. Hello, my name is Gareth. You're watching the Hub Line Network, and today we have all-around interesting person from town, Esther Lang. Esther, why don't you introduce yourself?
My name is Esther Lang. I've lived in Ashcroft for a great number of years. I won't tell you how many. I have taught school in this school district for 35 years, actually right in this building. And since I've retired, I've become involved in a lot of community activities, and that has given me the ability to learn more about people within the community, some of their needs, some of their wants, and just generally to gain more information about how we can help people in the community.
So right now, one of the big things that's going on is COVID. And so when COVID started, there was the possibility of people needing certain supplies, groceries, prescriptions, that kind of thing. And you sort of stepped up and created a group, as it were, or was part of the creation of a group.
Part of the group, yes.
That it was kind of like a helpline. Can you tell us a little bit about, for yourself anyway, what it was like coming up with these ideas, implementing them, that kind of thing?
Well, I think it started for us with a posting on Facebook where someone had said that they were going to be in isolation at that point, and what on earth were they going to do to get groceries? And so I thought, well, as the chair of the Ashcrofton Area Community Resources Society, this is something that we should take on as a project. And so I posted some things in the post office and the stores around town that said that we were willing to work with seniors and the disabled in getting them groceries, their mail, and prescriptions. And from there it just sort of went on, because we found that seniors and disabled were not the only people who needed some help. We have a lot of people in town who don't drive. We had some people who were in isolation and couldn't get out for groceries. There have just been a whole lot of needs within the community. And just after that happened, a group was developed called the COVID Response Line. We were fortunate enough to have a telephone, a dedicated telephone from the hub, because we were all more or less at home at that point. And so we took turns answering the phone one day a week to take requests from people. There were many requests, some of which we could help and some of which we needed to refer to other organizations, like the Elizabeth Fry Society for food, like perhaps even the Equality Project. We had some food from them. And then we decided to meet once a week at that point via Zoom so that we could network within the community as to who was doing what and what requests had come and how we could help people on a whole range of activities. Then it went to meeting by Zoom once every 2 weeks, and then it went to every month, and I've missed the last 3 monthly meetings because I've been too busy or I've forgotten about them. So when it's not that regular and when there aren't that many needs anymore, you kind of forget that you have an appointment with Zoom. Anyhow, just some statistics, because I'm kind of a statistic person. From March the 26th to November the 30th, which is 8 months approximately, there were a total of 19 people who requested help from the Community Resources Society. There, excuse me, there have been other requests for other things, but I'm only concerned right now about the Community Resources Society. There were 7 people who used our service once. There were 6 whose circumstances have improved, or else we found another venue for them. There are still 4 regulars, and there are 2 new people. So we haven't dealt with that many people, but we hope that we've provided a service. A lot of the people have wanted to pay for the service, which was not why we started it. And so when people started insisting that they really would like to pay for it, I indicated to them that we would turn the money into the Christmas Hamper Fund, and they would get a receipt for it for income tax purposes, because we are a registered charity. And so there has been a little extra financial support added to our Christmas Hampers Fund as well.
Oh, that's awesome.
And for that, we're grateful. We have worked with the Elizabeth Fry to provide groceries in April. We've taken people to hospital and specialist appointments in Kamloops and have been reimbursed sometimes through the fund that the COVID line has here. We've provided groceries. Well, we haven't provided groceries. We've taken people to town to buy their groceries, to the post office, to Fields, to the drugstore, to Early, to the bakery, etc. We might consider that some of these are not needs, but yet they are something that requires a person to live a little bit better than just normally in a time of confinement. And we've also taken people to the hairdresser when all the restrictions from COVID came off. So we've been happy with the service that we've been able to provide.
Just for clarification, the Community Resources Society, can you just explain a little bit about what that is specifically?
Ashcroft and Area Community Resources Society, as near as I can figure from back data, began about 30 years ago, and it was started by Shirley Dobson, who recognized that there were some needs in the community, and it was at that point that she was bringing in workshops and other things that other organizations right now are providing. In the last 10 years, one of their mandates was to create a directory that included the services that were provided in Ashcroft, Cache Creek, Clinton, and Spence's Bridge. There was money from United Way given for that project, and then 2 or 3 years ago, United Way decided that this would become BC 211.
Okay.
And so all the information that we had collected is on the website for BC 211, and we were no longer asked to update it. So now our mandate is more or less trying to find where there are shortfalls within the community and trying to fill those needs. We also meet twice a month in order to have a networking of a lot of the organizations in town, see what's happening, so that we can broadcast them and we can provide the information to the community that they might want about exactly what's happening. A lot of that has been taken over by the Hub, and thank you very much, because that has provided a different venue for people to get information, and it's out there as quickly as possible. So we'd also like to thank you for advertising our Christmas hampers and all those many things that we have sort of put out to the public, because we're really not media people. But one thing I would like to clarify too, many people believe that we are the Elizabeth Fry Society or the food bank. And for many years I've tried to clarify that there are differences, but there are still people who are mistaken that we are connected with them. We are an independent organization. We have our own status as a charitable organization. We can issue receipts for monies that are contributed. And right now, we're an umbrella organization for two organizations. One is the Christmas Hampers, of course, and the other is the Ashcroft Moving Forward. If there are other organizations in town who wish to be a part under our umbrella, all they need to do is approach us and see how they might fit in, because we do have that status, and we're willing to help out where we can.
Awesome. Now, when you, so going back to the helpline then, when and with the CRS, I believe is the
Yes.
acronym. You yourself are not putting money out of pocket. You are going to other groups and pooling resources and handing things out in that manner.
We are, yes.
So now that Christmas is upon us, and possibly, okay, let me stick on with COVID here for a sec. With the possibility of a second wave, since we don't have a vaccine yet, despite the fact that things are possibly close, so we're looking at a second wave if we're not already in it. Are you anticipating another lockdown of sorts? Are any of your groups anticipating a larger influx of people as people are staying home again due to larger numbers of COVID?
I don't think we've even given that a thought. I think we're waiting to see what happens, like the rest of the province.
Okay. So then, moving on to Christmas then, you've been heavily involved with the Christmas hampers, as you've mentioned. I always get confused with the difference between food bank and what a Christmas hamper is and why and how and why it's different. Can you explain what a hamper is specifically and how it's different than the food bank?
Well, first of all, I should say that the Christmas hamper, it wasn't a society back in those days, but the Christmas hampers began many years ago, before the food bank, I believe, even. And it was an attempt for some ladies in town to put together food packages for those in need at Christmas time. The United Church ladies apparently had a lot to do with it in the beginning. I'm not exactly sure of the details, but I know that there were a lot of the elderly generation that were involved in it at that point. I became involved in it about 7 years ago when I was asked to co-chair it, and then the co-chair really needed to leave the situation. The co-chair was not well, and so gave me the right to run the whole thing. So I became the chair of the Christmas Hamper Committee, and through Shirley Dobson's demise, I also became the chair of the Ashcrofton Area Community Resources Society. So I sort of hold two hats under one umbrella. Anyway, your question was about the difference between the hampers. So that's how it started. In our current hampers, we started out putting the makings of a Christmas dinner. So it included a turkey, cranberry sauce, stuffing, and a lot of the types of food that people would require for a Christmas dinner. We've branched out a lot and include a lot more food now. The basics mainly, like your tuna and your baked beans and your vegetables and your tinned fruit and your pastas and pasta sauces and things like that, that will enable people to use whatever money they have at Christmas time to spend it on other things that might be treats for them.
Right.
And so that's sort of the difference between us and the food bank. We're once a year. The food bank are every 2 weeks. I believe it's the first and third Wednesdays of every month here. Since we began, Clinton has also begun a food bank, and so oftentimes we can get data from them as to whether the food bank is the need is being increased or decreased or whatever. And so we tend to use those statistics to base our orders on for Christmas hampers. This year we decided, because we didn't know what COVID was bringing, we didn't know whether there would be a lot of turkeys available. There had been some outbreaks in some poultry plants at the coast and things. And so we decided this year that we would give turkeys to the families only, and the singles are receiving a $20 gift certificate to Safety Mart to buy their own meat.
Okay.
Now that will entitle them to buy, sometimes they can get a turkey with a $50 order. It will entitle them to buy a chicken, a ham, a deli meat, one of those little cooked chickens. And so the response there when we've told people about this, the single people, has been very good. They've been very happy to think that they could purchase their own meat and have something rather than a large turkey. A lot of these people live in motel rooms actually, and there's not a whole lot of capacity to cook turkeys. And so we've tried to, over the years, branch out and do things that are a little special. Last year we'd had some money left over from the year before, and so we went online and purchased boxes of chocolates for each of the hampers. This year we have a different plan, but I'm not about to tell you what it is.
Oh, come on, give us some breaking news here, Esther.
Let's just say that we're going to involve some of the local business people. So,
Awesome.
yeah.
So, do you have many volunteers that help you out, or are you kind of a one-woman show, or what does the CRS actually look like in terms of people?
We have a Christmas hamper fund, a Christmas hamper organization that consists of about 6 or 7 of us. We're the actual workers and putters together of the plans. It's always been our grateful thanks to the people who volunteer. We have volunteer drivers and what we call swampers, who are the people who actually carry the groceries up to people's doors. But we also have a group of people who come and help pack at the hall. This year, due to COVID, we've had to make a COVID plan, and one of the plans includes using the same people for all the days that we pack,
Right.
and having people who are in your social bubble to work with. So we have some husbands and wives, so that we're not including too many people. One year we had 38 volunteers. We used to have a drop-in system. Just drop in and come on and help us. Stay as long as you can. And it got very crowded in there, and people were standing around with nothing to do saying, what can I do, what can I do, what can I do? And so we decided last year to limit it to 25, and this year we've limited it to 20. It's true the size of the hall will allow us more people there, but we also have to create aisles that people go up and down to put the food into the baskets. And so I've forgotten your question, but
That's okay. Now, how do people access the hampers? Is there an application process, or do you just sort of know who needs them and you
no.
build off of that?
Apparently in the early days, and again, this is only hearsay because I really don't know, I don't have any data from that period, but they used to just allow people to phone in names of people that they thought might need a Christmas hamper. And I guess there was a lot of confusion around that, and people who didn't want to think that they really needed a Christmas hamper, and so it created some difficulties for people. And so we went to a system where they had to apply.
Okay.
We take the applications because I've had some difficulty in the past reading phone numbers, and if they're scrawled by people who are applying, sometimes they don't fill in the whole of the application, or a number gets missed, or something is scrawled, and so we sort of have a process that we go through with each person. We ask them to provide some form of identification, and that usually includes their address. And then we don't have to touch their cards or anything. We can see their name and we can see their address. And so that makes it much easier for us to maintain a database that way. And then we don't have anybody who feels like they didn't really need a Christmas hamper.
Right.
So they do apply. This year we've also gone to telephone because we actually cut down on the number of days that we were out and about. We were in Spence's Bridge for 2 days, Cache Creek for 2 days, Clinton for 2 days, the Bonaparte for 1 day, and Ashcroft for 3 days. But we cut out the just drop in to Elizabeth Fry because that happened to be where they allowed us to take our applications. We cut that out this year because of COVID, and because we needed it to work a little differently. And so I've taken a number of applications over the telephone. The difficulty now is that if people did not write down and hang on to their hamper number, it's going to be a little more difficult for our people making deliveries.
Right.
We're dealing with that.
Is there a cutoff time for people to be able to apply for a hamper, or have you already done this?
Yes, the cutoff date was the 27th, which was last Friday.
Okay.
The unfortunate part of even a cutoff date that long, that far in advance, is that we have to have our orders for turkeys into Safety Mart by the end of the first week of November. So it's always a guessing game.
Right.
So now that we have our statistics, we know exactly how much we need to purchase to put into those packages.
Did you, and stop me if I can't ask this question, but did you get a decent number of people asking for a hamper, or was it just a handful of people, or?
We have a total of 165 hampers this year.
Wow, awesome.
There are 41 from Ashcroft, which is a bit misleading, but that's all right. 52 from Cache Creek, which is also misleading. 15 from Clinton and 18 from Spence's Bridge. And then we have 37 people from either Ashcroft or Cache Creek who have agreed to pick up their hamper at the hall. So that's why I say those figures are a little misleading, because there will be some pickups that go into those two communities.
Well,
I actually calculated the total too of the number of people that we would be serving through these hampers, and it's 760 people.
That is amazing.
It is.
How can people I'm assuming that you would always be looking for volunteers. Is there a way that people can get a hold of you? If so, what would be the best way to do so if people wanted to help you in the future?
We have to wait until COVID settles before we decide what we're going to do for the future, but you can always call me and volunteer. This year we have all our staff together already. We have certain groups that help us with deliveries and have done for years. And we're using people this year that we have used in the past as our volunteers for putting together the hampers, because we don't want to be having a great deal of talking back and forth, and these people just know what needs doing.
Right.
And in a time of COVID, we've had, well, I guess we haven't had to, but we have chosen to make it as safe as possible for both our clients and our volunteers.
Okay.
So right now, we thank anybody who has already called me to volunteer, and any who might be thinking about that in the future. But right now we have our, I'll call it staffing, already in place.
And if there was a way for people to donate to the cause, such as it were, how would people go about doing that?
Well, there are a number of ways. We're asking this year for monetary donations more than food because of COVID and because we don't want a whole lot of touching of things. We have to keep track of who's in our building and who's touching what. And, you know, it's become the pandemic has created a few uncertainties for us. And so, your question was?
How can people get in touch with you to donate?
Oh, the money.
Yeah.
We have some places in town that have accepted, that will accept donations with people to add a few dollars onto their bill at the till. Early Bird, NGN, IDA, and Safety Mart are those. The liquor store, plus the Junction Coffee in Cache Creek.
Okay.
The two liquor stores in Ashcroft and Cache Creek have tin cans for donations of loose change that people might wish to give. The one here in Ashcroft has done that for us in the past, last year, and so they decided that they would like to do that again this year. So if you would like a tax receipt, you will need to either get hold of me or mail it to Ashcroft and Area Community Resources, Box 1137, Ashcroft, and then they will go to our treasurer and you will get a thank you note and you will get a receipt for your money, a tax-deductible receipt. So that should encourage people in a variety of ways as to how they can contribute to our fund.
Awesome. So is there any other groups that you're a part of that you would like to talk about at this time, or any other things that any other information that might have been missed in this interview that people need to know?
I tend to get my hand involved in all sorts of little things, but that's all right. I believe I'm on schedule on the 20th. Oh, don't quote me on the date because it's on my calendar and I don't remember, but I will be up at Jackson House in the outside, socially distanced, doing something for Christmas for the seniors.
Okay.
I have been involved in hymn sing at Jackson House for many years, but this being a COVID year, it's made life more difficult for how to get in there and wanting to keep the residents safe. I can't think of anything else right now that I'm involved in, but give me a minute and I'll think of it.
Well, I got
Anyway.
one more question for you. Because it has been such an interesting time with COVID, one thing I want to start asking people is just, how are you in general?
I'm good. It has been good for me to be able to get out and go shopping for people, take people here, there, and everywhere. And being at home gives me lots of time to plan Christmas hampers. So I think they're fairly well planned this year. There's a lot of statistics and a lot of data that I've managed to pull together. So I'm happy.
Awesome.
I'm also happy with the fact that I can go into the store and wear a mask and everybody else is wearing masks and I feel relatively safe. And so I know that there are people out there who are suffering from, I'll call it being shut in. And I would encourage those people to get out and go for a walk or phone somebody else who might be shut in, because they're probably just dying for a phone call or for somebody as well to think about them.
Right.
So.
Well, that was a fantastic interview. Thank you very much for coming in. I really appreciate that. And to everybody else, you can follow what everything else that Esther is going to be doing over the next little while by watching our news show. We'll be keeping everybody up to date with all of that information.
And I'll just mention one more thing, if you don't mind.
Sure.
And That is that we do have a Facebook page called Ashcrofton Area Christmas Hampers.
Okay.
And so people who would like to go on there and get the latest information that we post, please feel free to do that.
Wonderful. So thank you all for watching. Thank you again, Esther, for coming in.
I thank you for having me.
Anytime. And we will see you all next time.